Namaste! Welcome to today's yoga class. Today I would like to go through a practice, a very popular branch of yoga called ashtanga yoga. And this practice of yoga is often inaccessible to many people. It's a very dynamic form of yoga. Once mastered, it is phenomenal. It can really do wonders, physically, emotionally, spiritually. But the primary series, which we're going to have a brief look at today, is hard, physically and mentally challenging. There are some really hard postures in there which put many people off. So today we're going to take it back to a gentle approach to Ashtanga yoga. So if there are any seasoned Ashtangis watching this, you might be cringing and shuddering, but please do bear with me. I want to make this practice accessible to everyone. Those of you who come to my class will know that sometimes I throw in an Ashtanga practice once every now and again, because it's a chikitsa practice, which means a cleansing practice. It cleanses from the inside out. Now, we're not all going to be able to achieve many of the postures in the Ashtanga series. There are different series of Ashtanga. Today we're going to look at the first one, the primary series. There are handstands, there are headstands, there are arm balances. So it's not for everyone, but what I want to do today is make those postures a little bit more accessible for absolutely everyone, no matter what your fitness, flexibility, mobility. So we're going to start today just grounding down through our feet, relaxing our arms down by our sides, closing our eyes, and just taking a few breaths here. Perhaps swaying on your feet to find your connection, noticing your breath, connecting with your breath, connecting with where your mind is at right now. So noticing, taking out the judgment, taking out the criticisms, the I can'ts, the I cans. And just being here now, experiencing this moment. And we're going to start with one round of the Om vibration, just the one. If you're unhappy joining in with mantra, then that's fine, you can just listen. Or if you'd like to join in and you're in the comfort of your own home, then go for it. So we'll exhale the sound Om out. So take a deep breath in. Continue to breathe steadily with a little bit more control of the breath now, a gentle control for a gentle ujjayi breath. Slow and steady inhales and exhales. Gently open your eyes and take a deep inhale and reach both arms up. You can take your arms wide, stretch into your fingers, be kind to your shoulders. Lift your kneecaps, maybe look up slightly if your head's okay with it. Exhale, bend your knees and bow forward. Soft fold forward. Your fingertips don't have to touch the floor. Inhale, bring your hands up to your knees. Come to a flat back position. Straighten out your legs. Reach the crown of your head forwards. Exhale, bend your knees. Bring your hands all the way down to the floor. And step back to all fours. Coming back to all fours. Keep your toes tucking under. I'll turn this way. Keep your toes tucking under behind you. Sit back onto your heels just for a moment, let your head rest, and then drag yourself back up to all fours. And as you breathe out, lift your bottom in the air if you can. If not, stay on all fours. Coming into a little brief bent knee down dog. Take one breath here. And then as you exhale, slowly walk your feet forward to the front of your mat. Hip width apart, let yourself hang and fold. Breathe in, bring your hands to your knees. Come up to a flat back position. Breathe out, folding again. Bending your knees, it doesn't matter where your hands land. As you breathe in, start to curl up to stand. Taking your arms wide, lifting your knees, reaching up. We're going to go through that a couple more times. Breathe out, dive your arms wide and forwards. Soften your knees, breathe in, straighten your legs. Maybe your hands are on your shins, maybe they're above your knees, but flat back, bellies lift. Breathe out, bend your knees, plant your hands. So bend your knees as much as you need to get your hands to the floor and make your way to all fours. Take your time, keep your toes tucked. Have a little toe stretch, bottom to heels. Inhale back to all fours. Exhale, lifting up and back into down dog, keeping your knees nicely bent. You might want to think about straightening your legs out a little bit now, but if it hurts, back off and bend your knees. Think about lengthening the spine. As you breathe out, start to slowly walk your feet forwards to your hands. Breathe in, lift up to a flat back. Breathe out, bend your knees and fold. Breathe in, press into your feet, uncurl to stand. Lifting your arms up, fingertips to touch, and we go again. Breathing out, exhale. Really long exhale, use the breath to lead the movement. Breathe in, flat back. Breathe out, bend your knees, plant your hands, step back to all fours. We'll make this the last one like this. Take your toes tucked, bottom to heels. Inhale, come back up to all fours, keep your toes tucking under. If it's appropriate, lift your bottom up into the air into a down dog for one breath. We might hold it for 2 breaths. Maybe pedaling your feet for breath. Stretching out the backs of your legs. And then slowly walking forwards to your hands. Breathing in, coming to your flat back. Breathe out, fold over your legs. Breathe in, press into your feet. Lift all the way up to stand. And we'll go straight into Surya Namaskar B. So this time, bring your hands to your knees and sit back as if you were sitting in a chair behind you. Keep your shoulders rolling back away from your ears, your neck long. Straighten your legs and start to bow forwards. Maybe you need to bend your knees to get your fingertips to the floor, maybe not. Breathe in, lift to a flat back. Breathe out, bend your knees. This time we step the left leg back and lower the left knee down gently. Bring the hands onto the right knee. Square your hips to the front of your mat. Maybe you stay here for balance with your hands on your front knee. Maybe you breathe in and reach both arms up. Breathe out, bring your hands down to the floor. Slide your right leg back to all fours. Toes tuck under, little child's pose. Come back to all fours. This time we're going to step the left foot forward. So if you need to, you can walk it forwards around the side, or some of you might choose to swing in, step forwards. Bring your hands onto the left knee, lift up. Sink into your lunge, pull the left hip back, right hip forwards. Maybe lift your arms for balance, good. Bring your hands down to the floor. Step back to all fours, toes tuck under. Straight back into down dog if it's accessible. If not, stay on all fours. Take a deep breath in and out. And then inhale. And as you exhale, slowly walk your feet forwards to your hands. Inhale, come up to a flat back position. Exhale, soften, fold over your legs. Inhale, roll up, bending your knees, bringing your hands onto your knees. Sitting back as if you're sitting in a chair behind you, lovely shoulders away from ears. And then straightening the legs, lifting the arms up. Exhale, hands to the heart. We'll go again. Bend the knees, sit into your chair. Breathe out, fold over your legs as if you're bowing, let your hands relax. Inhale, straighten the legs, flat back. Exhale, bend the knees, plant the hands. This time we'll step the right leg, back. Lower your right knee and bring your hands onto your left knee. Pull your left hip back, right hip forward. Squeeze your left foot backwards. Nice lifting chest. Maybe if you've got the balance, you reach your arms up, or you can even have your elbows bent like a cactus. Bring your hands down to the floor. Come back to all fours. Toe tuck under. Little stretch in child's pose. Breathe in, come up. And then we're going to step or swing or walk the right foot forwards. Bring both hands up onto the right knee, lift your chest. Maybe stay here, maybe find your balance and lift into your lunge. Breathe out, hands to the floor. Slide the right leg back, tuck both toes under. Optional down dog if your wrists are happy with it. Lifting your hips up and back, legs can be straight or bent. And then slowly as you breathe out, walk your hands forwards. Take a deep breath in, come up to a flat back position. You might be feeling a little bit more bendy, fingertips might be on the floor now. Breathe out, fold over your legs. Breathe in, bend your knees, bring your hands up to your knees, come into your chair pose, sitting down on your imaginary chair behind you. And then breathe in, straighten your legs, fingertips to touch. Exhale, hands to the heart. Give everything a shake off. Now, if we were practicing a traditional ashtanga sequence, we would do 5 of each of those variations of the sun salute. And you'd be building up the agni, the fire in the belly, as well as sweat and out of breathness. But for now, hopefully, you might feel a little bit more like your heart rate is elevated. You might feel a little bit more fire in your belly, a little bit more limber and warm to move through the postures. So our first posture, you might require a block or 2 and perhaps even a tennis ball. It's the magic tennis ball. So have your blocks in just beside your feet and take your feet as wide as your hips. Bring your hands to your hips and squeeze your shoulder blades together. Lovely. Spread the feet out, lift your kneecaps, lift the tummy muscles, protect the low back. And as you breathe out, we're going to fold forward as if we're bowing. But we're not leading with our chin and jutting our chin forward here. We're keeping the back of the neck long, as if you've got a ruler shoved down the back of your neck. And folding forward. And now when you can't fold anymore, you let your hands drop, and it might be to your blocks. Some of you might be able to bring your hands to the floor and take the first 2 fingers inside the big toe and second toe with the thumb on the front of the big toe. Maybe you splay your elbows and draw your chest towards your thighs. If you've got this one, make sure you're being kind to your big toes. You're not pulling your big toe off, so you're pressing down with your big toe. You're trusting your balance, so perhaps if your balance isn't great, use blocks or you have your hands on the floor in front of you, or you can even bend your knees. But trust your balance and don't dump all the weight into your heels. Slowly bring your hands back up onto your blocks. We're going to come to a flat back position. We're not going to do too much up and downing because we don't want to make ourselves feel too dizzy. So some of you now may be able to take your hands and slide them palm upwards underneath your feet, either with a slight bend to the knees or not. Then splaying your elbows out to the side and folding over your legs. Now, if you think, goodness gracious me, no way, this is where you can get your little massage at the bottom of your foot with your tennis ball. So you hold onto your blocks, just do 1 foot at a time. You grab your tennis ball, you put it under 1 foot, and you have a little roll. And then we do the same on the other side. So this is a nice way of massaging your feet, if you haven't got someone kind at home to do it for you. Lovely. Also wakes the feet up for balancing, standing and grounding. And then we're going to get rid of your tennis ball. We don't need that one again today. Bring your hands back to your hips, engage your tummy muscles and slowly lift up to stand. Now if you want to, you can wiggle your knees and drop your chin to your chest as you come up to stand. If you feel a bit dizzy, make your way to a wall or come to sit down on the floor. So we're standing up. Now I'm going to come sideways on so you can all see the next posture. Facing the fronts of your mats, in Dandasana, mountain posture, we're going to step the right foot back, a nice wide step back. Now my right toes, I don't know if you see, my right toes are almost pointing forwards. But then I'm going to turn them out ever so slightly, and I'm going to turn my hips to the long side of my mat. So I turn my hips to the right as well. Being mindful, my left knee isn't spinning inwards, and being compromised. So I'm going to keep my left thigh externally rotating, my right thigh externally rotating, so my hips are opening. Then I'm going to have my left hand on my left thigh. Let's turn around to the back actually. Let's turn the left toes, let's do it traditionally. Turn the left toes in and the right toes to point to the back of your mat. So you're the other way round. Good. So pulling the left hip back, the right hip back, opening the hips, rolling the right knee out, the left knee out. Good. Right hand on the right thigh, left hand on the left hip. Tiny, tiny bend on this right knee. What we don't want in this kind of posture is to jar this front knee backwards and hyperextend the knee. So we want to keep it strong and supported. Keep the left shoulder reaching up to the sky and maybe just start to lean the right rib cage over the right thigh. Now this is Trikonasana, so you might be quite happy here, thank you very much. Some of you might use your block and your hand might come to rest on your block and you're lifting your left shoulder up towards the ceiling. Some of you might be happy, if your shoulders are happy, to lift your left arm up, stretching into your fingers. This is not good for your neck, so keep your neck strong. I recommend if your neck is prone to discomfort to keep looking forwards or even down at the floor. But if you're happy and strong in your neck, you can look up at your thumb. The other option here, so when you're ready to come out of the pose and have a rest, have a wiggle with your legs, and I'll show you another way of doing this if that's too strong. You can face a wall and have your right toes right up against the wall. Left foot is in that slightly turned in position. Your hips are turning away from the wall. Your right hand is on the wall. And we lean over the right leg, using the hand to brace us. Maybe we lift the left hand up and over to get a lovely stretch down the left side of the waist. Your left hand might even come to touch the wall. This is a really lovely variation of Trikonasana. If you feel a bit wobbly, because it is a balance, or if it feels too strong, just having the wall there for support. And then we're going to turn around and do the same. So we're going to turn to face the front. So the left toes turn forwards, the right heel turns out. Stacking your hips in the middle of your feet. Left hand on the left thigh, right hand on the right hip. And start to just side bend. It's not a forward fold yet. It's a side bend over the left leg. Rolling the left knee out, remember. Little micro bend on the left knee so it's strong. Maybe bringing your hand down to your block. Maybe lifting your right hand up. Some of you might feel super flexible and bring your left hand all the way down to the floor. But just be mindful that when you do that, this, if I show you front view, this doesn't happen. I see a lot of this. This is not Trikonasana, this is something altogether different. I don't know what this is. But your chest is turning to the floor. The aim of this pose is to lift and open and create expansiveness across the whole of your body. And then inhale, come up to stand. We're going to take that into a reverse Trikonasana now, a revolve Trikonasana. So turn your toes back to the back of the mat. Now this time, it's almost as if you were going to go for a walk. So your left toes are almost pointing forward, so you could just stroll off the back of your mat. Your legs are probably a little bit narrower now. Have your block to hand, and we're going to turn our hips to face the back of our mat. So I'm pulling my right hip back, left hip forwards. My hands are on my hips, a little micro bend on my front knee, but my legs are almost straight. Then I'm going to start to bow forwards. And I look at my block and I think I can reach my fingers to that, perhaps. If they can, great. If not, keep your left hand on your left hip. And we're going to start to turn our body to the right, pulling our right shoulder up towards the ceiling. Maybe you can lift your right arm out behind you with a little lean forwards. If you can get your hand on the block, great. Maybe you lift your right arm up to the ceiling and it's strong. The low back is flat and you breathe. Again, come out after you've done 3 or 4 breaths and have a look and see this variation at the wall. If you want to, right toes are facing the wall, left toes are turning almost towards it as well. The right hand is on the hip. The right hand pulls the right hip back and the left hand hand is resting on the wall, and we start to fold forwards. You might need to have space, some of you, to come away from the wall. Using the wall for guidance, you're going to push your left hand into the wall to create that twist. It might make it a little stronger, it might give you a little bit more support. Maybe you take your right arm out behind you or up to the sky, but please be mindful of your shoulders. Lovely. Once you're all out of the posture and you've chosen your variation, we're going to turn to do the front. So there's a lot of toing and froing. Turning back to the front of your mat, so your left toes are turning forwards, right toes are turning in, hands on your hips, pull your left hip back, right hip forwards. Inhale, puffing up your chest, shoulder blades squeeze. Exhale, folding forwards. Having a look and seeing I can reach my block, or some of you might reach the floor, and that's fine too. Neck is still long, maybe lifting the left shoulder, left elbow, maybe just taking the arm out behind you or resting your hand on your low back, or some of you might lift the left hand up towards the sky. Lovely, deep breathing, Parivritti-Trikonasana. Look down at the floor. Little bend on the front knee to press yourself all the way up. That's the hardest one, I think. Lift all the way up to stand and turn back to the front of the mat. Let's step the feet a little bit wider. We're going to turn our right toes to the back of the mat again. Left toes about 45 degrees in. Move my block so you can see my feet. Bending the right knee now. Right hand on the right knee. We're going to side bend again, but this time the right knee is bent. So you can use the hand on the knee, but make sure you're not letting your shoulder lift up towards your ear. So you're long in your neck, and your left hand can reach straight up. Pressing into the outside edge of your right foot. Now, if this feels comfortable, some of you will get a block on whichever setting is appropriate for you and bring your hand on the inside of your right foot and reach your right hand up. Some of you might find it's accessible to you to reach your left hand overhead a little bit. So you've got this nice straight line almost from your fingers to your heel. Good. Breathing and smiling. And then inhale, lift up, straighten the front leg. Keep your arms extended if you can, a little bit of strength building. Ooh, watch your blocks. And we pivot the feet around to the front of the mat. Pull the right hip back and bend the left knee, making sure the knee is tracking directly above the ankle. It's not falling in, is it? No, good. Then we're going to bring the left hand to the left knee, reach the right arm up, maybe the left elbow to the left knee, maybe the right arm over, maybe some of you will bring your hand to the floor or your block, stretching, extending, making your legs as wide as is comfortable for you. Sometimes I prefer to be your widest stance in this posture. And then inhale, lift up from wherever you are. Straighten out your front leg. Now this one is a tricky one. So I'm going to face straight on so you can see this one. So we're going to turn back to the front of the mat. You're going to turn to the back of your mat, sorry. Turning to the back of your mat. The left foot is going to be the front one and the right... No, I've got that completely wrong because I'm trying to face you all. Brain freeze. So the right foot is the one in front. Yes, the right foot is forward, the left foot is back. This time we're going to turn our hips. Now in this posture, in the revolved variation of Paschimottanasana, the hips are pointing forward, the back heel is down and the front knee is bent. That might be very strong on the Achilles and on the back leg. If it feels too much, by all means lift the back heel so you're just on the toes. That's absolutely fine, but make sure you're not gripping with your front toes. Then we're going to twist this posture. So really pull the left hip forward. Engage the tummy muscle so you're not sticking your bottom out behind you. The left hand comes to the right knee. The right elbow and shoulder lifts. It's easier on balance to find a drishti in front of you or off to the side of you, but if you want to challenge that drishti in balance, you can turn your head to look over your right shoulder. For those of you who think I can go a little bit deeper, With the right knee bent, you might bring your left hand to a block on the floor and start to lift your right elbow, shoulder, maybe lift the right hand. Good. So it's a revolved variation of the posture we just did. Breathing into it, the heel can be up or down, remember, and then lift all the way up to stand, straightening the front leg. And we're going to turn around to do the same on the other side. So you're going to pivot on your feet, and I'm going to swap feet so I can face the camera and hopefully you can see me. The right heel is down or up, depending on how your right leg is feeling. It might feel okay until you pull your right hip forward, and then it becomes a little stronger. And it becomes even stronger when you start to bend the left knee. Make sure you're not gripping with your left toes. Tailbone tucking, left hand to left hip. Right arm reaches up and then onto the left knee. Maybe this is it. And this is perfect. This is a twist. You're breathing into your belly, your spine is long and it's twisting. Maybe you bring your right hand onto a block and lift your left hand up. Good. Pulling the left hip in, it's going to want to poke out to the side, so pull your left hip in. Breathing, smiling. Look down at the floor for balance, bring your hands to your hip and lift all the way up to stand. We're going to step to the front of the mat to have a shake out. Have a good shake. Then we're going to do one of the variations of Paschimottanasana. So standing at the front of your mat, you're going to take a nice big step back with the right leg again. This time turning both toes to point to the long side of your mat. And then turn your toes in about 5 degrees. So you're able to press into the outside of your feet. So heels are turning out slightly. Press into the outside edge of your feet, but think about lifting up through the soles of your feet. Lift up through your legs, lift your kneecap, lift your pelvic floor muscles, stacking shoulders over ears. Bring your hands to your hips, puff up your chest, take a deep breath in. And then again, just like we did in the forward fold with our legs together, we fold forwards, leading with the chest, not the chin. Keeping the shoulder blades squeezing, the kneecaps lifting, strong in the legs, trusting our feet. And when you can't fold anymore, you bring your hands down to bring to the floor. Some of you might bring them to a block or 2 blocks. Resting here, relaxing your head. If your flexibility is there, you might want to bring your hands to the floor. Some of you, flexibility isn't an issue, and you can bring your hands to the floor and walk your hands in between your feet. Press the floor forwards and let your head relax. The moment you start to feel dizzy, bring your hands forward and perhaps come down to your knees or come up to stand with chin to chest. And then slowly lift the chest to a flat back position. Walk your hands in towards you, walk them up your legs and come all the way up to stand, chin to chest. And then we're going to heel toe the feet a little bit closer together, but not all the way together. They're a little bit closer together. Then we turn the feet to the back of the mat again. So we turn the right toes to the back of the mat, the left toes in. And it's the same variation as if we're going to go for a walk. Turning your hips to face the back of the mat, tailbone tucks under. This time we're going to do a nice forward fold. So we're not going to twist, we're just going to go straight forward. So again, if your balance feels a bit wobbly, use a wall. The other thing to help with balance is if your legs are like this in a straight line, you probably will fall over. You want to imagine that there's a runway between your legs, a little bit of space so that you could just step through. Hands to your hips, puffing up your chest. Maybe with your chest puffed up, some of you might be able to make fists with your hands and bring your fists to touch behind, resting on your low back. If that's not accessible, keep your hands on your hips and then slowly start to bow forwards. Pressing into the right big toe and pulling the right hip back. And only going to a flat back position or before it. Trying not to push your body too far. Of course, if you have the flexibility, then you may go deeper, bringing chest towards the thigh,
but maybe not. Be mindful of why you've got that flexibility. Is it because your body is hypermobile? If that's the case, back off, because your body won't send you the signals to say too much, too much. And then breathe in, lift up, keep your hands where they are, and we pivot our feet back to the front of the mat. So your right toes are almost pointing forward now. The left toes are pointing forwards. You've got a runway between your legs. Your right hip is pulling forward, your left hip's pulling back. Legs are strong. Take a deep breath in and breathe out. Coming to your flat back position with your hands resting on your low back, elbows lifting as much as is appropriate for you. Leading with the crown of the head, breathing, lifting the belly away from the thigh. And to face the front. One more breath here. And then inhale to lift up. Release your hands. And we're going to step to the front of the mat for a little bit of balance. So if balancing is not your bag today, again, use your trusty wall. So we're going to start with our balance on the right leg. So perhaps have your right hand on the wall with the right side of your body close to the wall, and then we'll switch over. If you think you want to have a go at balancing, great, come away from the wall. If you're on a squishy carpet, it will make it more challenging. So just bear that in mind if and when you tumble. So soften your right foot, spread your right foot out. Find a drishti, so a point on the floor that you can focus on, concentrate on. It'll keep your mind still. And when you're ready, lift up onto your left tiptoes. This might be it today, and that's fine. Or perhaps you can lift your knee and maybe hold on in front of the shin or underneath the knee. And again, if you need your right hand on the wall, that's absolutely fine. This is where we're going to stay for a moment, pulling the shoulders back, maybe lifting the knee towards the chest. Try not to lift the hips, so keep the left hip dropping. Lovely. For those of you that want to go there, you can take your hands underneath the leg and have a go for one breath at extending your legs straight. Smile, breathe, release, and then slowly lower the foot down. There's a lot more to that sequence in the traditional variation, but for now, we're going to work with this. It makes it much more accessible. Give your right leg a shake out because we've been standing on it. Give your ankle a twirl. And we're going to do the same on the other side. So if you need the wall, turn with your left side to the wall. Soften the left foot, pull the left hip into the midline. Engage through the pelvic floor muscles, lifting up through the spine. Using your breath to lift you. Then coming up onto your right tiptoes, or perhaps lifting your right knee up towards your chest, flexing your foot, spreading your toes. Still, you can do things gently and still be active. Lovely. Breathing. For those of you who want to challenge your balance, you can take Antara Drishti and close your eyes. And for one breath, you can bring your hands underneath your right thigh and have a go at straightening out your right leg. It doesn't matter if it doesn't go all the way straight. And then relax and slowly lower the foot to the floor. Give your left leg a shake out. And we'll do a tree pose now. Rather than going into a crazy bound forward fold in Lotus, sometimes knees aren't happy with Lotus or half Lotus, so we're going to just do a simple variation of Vrikshasana. So again, we'll start on the right foot. Use your wall if you need to. We're going to open the left hip, coming up onto the left toes, bringing the left ankle, left heel to the right ankle. Opening your knee out to the side, opening your right hip out to the side. I like to keep my right hand on my right iliac crest, so that's the bony bit that protrudes at the front of your hip, to pull my right hip around, and my left hand on my inner thigh, and that helps to open my hips. If this is where you are, you stay there and you breathe. You relax into the posture. Sthira Sukha Asana, steady, comfortable pose. Some of you may want to lift your left foot up onto your shin, the inside of your shin. The temptation is to use the knee, but please don't, because you don't want to push your knee in the wrong direction. Some of you might be able to lift your foot up and place it into your groin, and this is where we're going to stay for today. Those of you that have the half lotus practice, if it's available to you, if you're used to this and you can, then why don't you go ahead? But if not, stay here, breathe. Enjoy the simplicity sometimes stripping back. You notice things you might not have noticed before. Keeping your hands connected to your hips and your legs, or bringing your hands to your heart, or having your hand on the wall. Staying a little bit longer to balance. I'm challenging that right ankle, building strength. Lovely. And then gently release the foot, give the right leg a little rotation. Standing on the right foot, we're going to do our left foot, sorry, left and rights today. We're going to do our Vrikshasana on the other side. So turning the right knee out to the side, right heel into the left ankle, pulling the left hip into the midline, opening up the right knee, shoulders over hips, Mula Bandha, energy moving up through the spine. You might stay here, here, or perhaps lifting the foot up into the groin. Now, I always say to my students that there is no such thing as a slippery pair of leggings. So pressing your foot into your leg and your leg into your foot, create opposition, create resistance. Reminding your hips that this isn't a twist, this is a hip opener. So you're opening your leg and your hip apart, bringing your hands together if it's comfortable, or resting your left hand on the wall, right hand on your chest. If you want to, again, you can close your eyes and take Antara Drishti. Busy mind today, busy mind. And then slowly release out of that pose, giving everything a shake out. And we'll do our final standing posture. There are normally quite a few vinyasas in a traditional primary series, but we're just going to go straight through the postures, and then we're going to vinyasa to seat and go through some of the seated postures. So the next asana that we have is everyone's favourite, is Warrior Two. So standing at the front of your mat, we take a nice big step back with the right leg, and we're going to pivot around to face the back of your mat. So your right toes turn off the back of your mat, your left toes turn in. Bending your right knee, opening up your arms this time. So the right knee doesn't have to be all the way down here. This doesn't have to be a super deep Warrior Two. Perhaps your stance isn't quite as wide, and you're in a little mini Warrior Two, a little tiny bend in the knee. Just have a look and make sure your knee is tracking directly above your ankle. Your shoulders are over your hips, your left hip is pulling in, your right knee is pressing out, and you're stretching and reaching out through both fingertips, lifting through the crown of the head and turning to look over your right fingers. It might even be a bit shallower still. So this is your warrior, your personal warrior. What kind of a warrior are you today? And then we straighten the legs, keep the arms extended if you can, pivot the feet back to the front, make your warrior powerful as you like, as powerful as you feel and you are right now. Bending the left knee, this is the last standing posture, pressing the left knee outwards and turning to look over your left fingers. Press into the outside edge of the right foot. Good. Relax shoulders. I tend to stick my bottom out in warrior, I've noticed, so I have to remind myself to pull my right hip in and press my left knee out. And then straighten the leg, and we're going to gracefully, maybe in one step or maybe in a few, step to the front of your mat, feet together or hip width apart, and we will do a vinyasa to seated. So bring your hands together at your heart, take a deep breath in, and an exhale. One more like that, cleansing breath out through your mouth. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, reach both arms up. Exhale, soften your knees and bow forwards, leading with your chest. Breathe in, come up to your flat back. You might feel a little bit more flexible in your hips. Breathe out, bend your knees, plant your hands and step back to all fours. Untuck your toes and come down into child's pose. How to sway in child's pose. Of course, if this isn't comfortable for your knees, stay on all fours or come straight to sitting on your bottom. When you're ready, inhale, lift your head. Drag yourself back up to all fours. And we're going to come to sitting down. So walk your hands over to your left-hand side. Take your feet over to your right and slowly lower your hips over. And then we're going to swing or walk our feet around to the front of the mat and come to sitting in a posture called Dandasana or staff pose. Blocks or blankets or a rolled up yoga mat can be really beneficial here. You can put them underneath your knees if you have tight hamstrings. If you have tight hip flexors, you can sit on your block, your blanket, your yoga mat. Raising your hips helps, but be mindful that your knees, if your hips are high, there's space under the back of your knees, so you might just want to put something a little bit smaller. Let me use a block for now because I haven't got anything to hand, but something a bit smaller underneath the backs of your knees, just so that your knees are supported, they are supported. Sitting in Dandasana, long, tall spine, shoulders away from ears, crown of the head reaching upwards, toes pulling back, spreading your toes. Gaze is to the big toes. You can have your feet about hip width apart and you breathe deeply into your belly. We're going to take a deep breath in, reach both arms up, soften your knees, and as you exhale, reach forwards as if you're reaching beyond your feet. It doesn't matter if you don't reach beyond your feet. Breathe in, reach up. Breathe out, reach forwards, leading with your chest. One more time. Breathe in, reach up. Breathe out, reach forwards, and see if you can find your big toes with your first two fingers, the inside of the big toe, thumb on the top. Again, if that's not accessible, rest your hands on your shins, let your head relax. Folding into Paschimottanasana. Lovely. Not pulling your toes off, using your belly. For those of you familiar with Uddiyana Bandha, it's a nice time to use that practice. And then inhale, lift up, release your toes, come all the way back to seated, and we'll go straight into Paschimottanasana. So for this one, I suggest staying, if you've got yoga blocks or books or anything solid that you can sit on, I suggest sitting with your legs straight. Bring your hands out behind you. You can come onto fingertips, or if it's available, you can have your hands flat. Ideally, fingers point forward, but if your wrists don't like that, then you can turn them out to the side slightly. Toes point up to the ceiling, puffing up your chest. Now you can stay here. If you've got a second yoga brick or book, make sure your tower is stable before you land on it. You puff up and you come higher. For those of you that want to come into the full variation posture and you know your shoulders and wrists are up to it, you can lift your hips. You haven't got far to go if you've got two yoga bricks. You can lift your hips. Toes can point up to the ceiling, or without giving yourselves cramp, you can see if your big toes can touch the floor. I like to keep my head looking up towards the ceiling so I don't strain my neck. And then release. Lovely. Walk your hands back in. If you've been on your wrists, give a little rotation through the wrists. And we're going to come off both of our blocks now. And if you have tight hips, maybe choose to go back to just sitting on one. And we're going to do our Janu Shirshasana, head to knee posture. So we have the right leg extended straight. And then we bend the left knee, bringing the left foot to be in contact with the right leg. It doesn't have to be all the way up into the groin. It can be low down on the shin. You can support your knee with a block or two if it's flapping in the breeze. If it feels uncomfortable, you can have your foot on the floor with your knee slightly bent. I know some people's knees aren't happy in that externally rotated position, so this might help, perhaps with a little bit of support underneath. But whichever variation you choose, I'd like to see if you can use your hands to turn your torso to face your right leg. Inhale, lift your chest. And as you exhale, creep your hands down the outside of your right leg. Again, leading with your chest, not your chin. Looking down at your knee and relaxing through the spine, pulling the right leg back into the socket. Some of you might be able to grab hold of the foot, but we're not striving, we're not pushing. Breathing here, relaxing your neck, going easy on yourselves. And then inhale to come up. And we're going to straighten out the left leg, bend the right leg, do the same. Turn your torso, again, prop yourself accordingly. Support the right knee if it's flapping in the breeze and feels uncomfortable. Turn your torso towards your left leg, lift your chest. And as you exhale, walk yourself down your leg. Thinking, am I rounding in my shoulders? Because it's quite easy to get your head, well, it's easier to get your head to your knee, which is the name of the posture, if you round your back. But what we want is more of a chest to knee pose. So we want to aim to bring chest to knee and forehead to shin. Relaxing the shoulders. Try not to rotate and lift the right shoulder. Drop the right shoulder. See if you can soften your hands. For those of you who are really bendy and you can bind around the foot, see if you can soften your hands and walk your hands beyond your foot instead. Taking out the urge to pull on the foot. Or you might be up here, relaxing into the stretch, relaxing your neck, breathing deeply. And then we inhale to lift up. We straighten the right leg, we bend the left knee again, but this time the foot is flat to the floor with a little bit of space between the foot and the knee. Your right hand will come out behind you, and the left arm is going to come inside the left knee. This is where we need a little bit of strength, a little bit of core strength. So sitting on a block will help if you found you're rounding into your low back, lifting up through the crown of the head, and you're going to press your knee, the inside of your knee into the outside of your arm, and the outside of your arm into the inside of your knee. And we're going to open twist to look over our right shoulder. Notice my right foot is flexed, my toes are spreading. I'm on fingertips with my right hand to resist the temptation to dump my weight backwards into my right hand. Then I'm going to turn my head back to the front, release, extend my left leg, use my right hand to pull my right knee in, flex the left foot, left hand comes out behind onto fingertips, right elbow on the inside of the right knee, press the elbow into the knee and the knee into elbow, and twist to look over my left shoulder. If my neck's okay with it, otherwise I stay looking forwards. Maybe gazing to your left big toe or off to the side. Whatever is comfortable for you. Relax your shoulders, breathe, feel the breath in your belly. And then turn back to the front. Release, bring both feet to the floor with your knees bent and hold on behind the backs of your knees. So this part of the sequence is handstands. I'm only kidding. Traditionally, there would be, if you were practicing full primary series and you'd mastered the series, there would be handstands in a minute. We're not going there today. Handstands are still elusive for me. I'm working on them, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. One day, maybe. Who knows? But it's not an issue. But today we're just going to stick with the gentle elements of this practice. So Navasana is the next posture. Bringing your hands underneath the backs of your knees, rolling your shoulders back and taking your weight back into the back edge of your sit bones a little bit. So I come sideways on, you'll see. Maybe staying with your feet on the floor, maybe lifting your feet off the floor and hovering them just off the floor, looking forwards, or maybe bringing your feet up so that your shins up so that they're parallel with the floor. We're going to stay here and take 5 deep breaths. Keep smiling. And then lower your toes to the floor. Come back to seated. Just stretch out. If you've got any tension built up, extend your legs wide. If you need to sit on something, you can. pull the flesh backwards from the sit bones. So you're sitting on your sit bones. We've all got bottom flesh, so pull it backwards. Toes point up to the ceiling. If needed, you can have your legs a little bit bent. They don't have to be quite so wide, depending on how flexible you're feeling today. If your legs are straight and you want to work a little bit more dynamically, you can press your thighs down into the floor. Roll forwards, leading with your chest, and start to walk your hands forward. So we're not going to go to full Kamasana, but maybe some of you will be able to take your hands and slide them just underneath your shins for today. And press your shins down, little bend on the elbows to pull your chest towards the floor. Lovely. Relaxing your shoulders and breathing, lifting through the pelvic floor. Again, this is another one, forward folds. It's another one where Uddiyana Bandha, if you're familiar, is useful. If you think, what is she talking about? Don't worry, we will cover that in another lesson. And then lift up, walk your hands back in. Use your hands underneath your knees to bend your knees, bring your feet together. And again, your practice, you decide how close to your hips your feet need to be. Some of you are now feeling a little bit warmer and you can bring your feet nice and close to your groin. Some of you, your feet might be a bit further away and you're holding onto your knees. Totally up to you. If you can reach your feet, you can take your thumbs inside your feet and the fingers wrapping around the outside and open up the soles of your feet towards the ceiling. That automatically allows your knees to drop a little bit without forcing. So find that balance of that edge where you find that you've reached a point in your posture where it's not easy, but it's not hard, if that makes sense. So never struggling. Listen to your breath. If you don't know, close your eyes. Can you breathe easy, steady? It might be more dynamic, but is it flowing steadily? And then release. Bring your hands to the outside of your knees. Bring your knees together. Have a block to hand. Feet hip width apart and lower yourself down onto your back with your knees pointing up to the ceiling and your arms down by sides. We're going to use our blocks for this one, a nice supported variation. So as you breathe in, lift your hips and slide a block or maybe two or maybe a block on its second setting or a book or a cushion underneath your hips. And let your arms relax. So you want the block or the book or whatever you've got resting underneath the triangular sacrum bone of your pelvis. So it's nice and supported. It shouldn't be digging in anywhere. It should feel supported. Your shoulders can open and you can breathe. And at this point in the practice, we would start heading towards backward rolls out of full wheel postures. But again, we're not going there today. The next part of the sequence, though, is a shoulder stand. So for us here right now, you have the option to take yourself to a wall and shimmy your legs up against a wall and lie with your legs up against the wall and your back on the floor. Vipariti Karani Mudra, legs up the wall. Or if you want to, you can stay with a block under your hips and pick bent knees up. Maybe extend one leg at a time, coming into your shoulder stand here. We're starting to wind down the practice. So I'm using a little bit of a restorative supported element now. Keeping it gentle, keeping it easy after all the work that our legs have done. So we'll take extra breaths here with our legs above our heart. Perhaps even rest one hand on your belly and one hand on your chest if it's comfortable. If not, you can take your arms into cactus if you're supported and comfy. Opening your heart, opening the space across your chest. Break your plexus, breathing into that space. Smiling, just like your collarbones are smiling. Let your face smile as well. And then bend your knees, and one at a time lower your feet down to the floor. And if you've got a couple of blocks, or you've got your block on a second height setting, I'd recommend just taking one block out or lowering the block. And just for a moment, just to reset, just to not shock your spine into going flat again. And then lift out. And then the counter pose, traditionally we would have gone into a plough pose then, but we didn't, and that's fine. But the counter pose for that would have been a Matsyasana, a fish pose, and it's a nice one to practice. It's a nice heart opener. So we're going to do that anyway. So we extend our legs out, and I'd like you to just guide yourself up onto your elbows. And if you've got 2 bricks or cushions, that's great. If not, you can stay on your elbows, squeeze your elbows together, and look down at your feet. Your toes can be pointing or flexed, puffing up your chest. You're in a fish pose. For those of you that have got blocks and equipment, you can slide one block under your mid-back, and then on the same setting, or perhaps even a higher setting, there's another block underneath the back of your head, and you're in your fish pose. You can feel this expansiveness across the chest. You're opening your chest, your shoulder blades are dropping towards the floor. Breathing into the bottom part of your lungs now, the diaphragm. So this posture enables us to breathe really deeply into the bottom of our lungs. So perhaps even place your hands, if you can, if you've got the blocks, place your hands on the bottom of your rib cage and feel the expansion. And feel that it's not just a 2-dimensional expansion. It's a wave-like 3-dimensional expansion through your ribs. Our bodies are wonderful, amazing things, and sometimes we just don't give ourselves the time to notice how amazing they are. Fascinating. And then we're slowly going to guide ourselves off our blocks. So if you want to, you can roll off your blocks onto the side, moving them out the way. I'm going to come onto all fours for one final asana. That's a headstand. So I know some of you who practice gentle yoga are perfectly proficient at headstands, using the wall or not, and that's absolutely fine. So if that's part of your practice, then now is the time to do it. The other option, of course, is a hare's pose, which is just as beneficial as a headstand. Or you can do a child's pose. So we'll start and you stop where is appropriate for you. So coming down to sit, your bottom on your heels, bringing your forehead towards the floor. Child's pose, your hands are either side of your head. Maybe this is you and you are happy here. Maybe you think, I want to try and see how it feels. So you can roll onto the crown of your head by simply lifting your hips up. Your hands are just in front of, but either side of your knees for support. So you can press into your hands. There might feel like there's a lot of weight going through the crown of your head at this point. So maybe only take a breath or two there, or you can roll up your yoga mat, give yourself a little bit more padding, lifting your hips high and breathing. And then coming back down into a child's pose and letting your arms drop down by your sides. So that posture is saved for the end, stimulating your Svadhisthana chakra, your crown chakra, where we find our true self, our enlightened self. And then inhale, lift up to seated. And I'll be honest with you, I'm still looking. Come up to seated. Some days I catch glimpses and then I homeschool and it'll go out the window. But that's okay, that's where I am. We're going to make our way up to seated to either a cross-leg position or any position that's comfortable for you. If you've got a wall to hand and you feel that you're going to slump in any position where you're seated, then use the wall. Sit right up against the wall so your back can be upright and supported, or sit on a block or have your legs out in front of you. The traditional variation of this is Paschimottanasana or Lotus pose. So if you are a Lotusy practitioner and you know your knees are happy with it. Now I can't see you, so you have to know that your knees are happy with this. You might want to go for a full Lotus, making sure your feet are flexed, or perhaps even a half Lotus. But whichever variation you're in, I'd like you to bring your hands to rest on your lap or your knees. Bring your thumb and first finger to touch and close your eyes. And start to breathe deep and steady with Ujjayi. Long, slow inhale. Long, slow exhale. Drawing prana and energy into your body through your nostrils with your inhale and sending it down to your pelvis. And then feeling that energy as it vibrates and moves up your spine to the crown of your head with your exhale. Inhale, drawing energy in. Exhale, sending that energy from the base of your spine to the crown of your head. Take 2 more deep, steady breaths, breathing all the way into the base of your spine. Keeping a gentle tone through the pelvic floor. Release your mudra with your hands, release the mudra with the legs. And in your own time, I'd like you to make your way to a comfortable lying down position. Whether that be flat on your back or with your knees bent. You can prop cushions underneath your knees, you can get blankets. So perhaps pause the video now to get yourselves comfortable. And once you're comfortable, allow your body to take up all the space that it needs. And allow the floor to support your physical body. Relax your toes, your feet, your ankles. Feel lightness to your legs. Let them sink into the floor and be supported with an effortlessness, feeling of lightness. Relax your hips, relax your glutes. Feel a sense of space, an openness in the palms of your hands and your fingers. Your fingertips even, there is space there. There's space around your hands and fingers. And just like your arms, your legs and shoulders can now relax and soften into the floor. Not with a sense of heavy, but with a sense of light, a sense of ease, letting go. The whole back of your body softens. Your spine unwinds and melts into the floor. The muscles supporting your spine unwind and melt. Your head can be entirely supported now. And all the organs in your body can relax, can sink. All the cells in your body can relax, can sink. Your whole body is relaxed. Slowly begin to feel your way out of Shavasana, out of this sense of deep relaxation. Starting to feel the sensations of the floor beneath you, feel the sensations of your clothes on your skin, feel your breath. And then when you're ready to, you can make little movements, little wiggles. And notice not just the physical sensations within your body, but each time you make a movement, can you feel the energy, vibrations around your body as well? Perhaps, perhaps not. Know that there is so much more to you. And then in your own time, you can make your way up to any comfortable seated position. Perhaps mixing up the cross of your legs if you've gone for a leg cross. And we'll finish with one Om vibration. So bringing your palms together at your heart, closing your eyes, taking a deep breath in. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaste. Well, thank you for joining me with this gentle version of Ashtanga.